Ancient Turkey influenced the Greek and Roman world so much that they even provided some mythology, such as the story of ARACHNE. Turkey has been an area of fascination for many years. It was part of the Roman Empire and then a critical part of the Byzantine Empire. Turkey even became a mighty empire in its own right as the Ottoman Empire. Today, Turkey has a rich culture that celebrates its long, diverse history. But before Turkey joined the Romans, it had already influenced world history. Turkish ancient history is unique, filled with several civilizations that shaped Turkey's development and world history. Turkey was home to the Hittite people, who were equal to Mesopotamian civilizations, and the Anatolian people, some of whom stood up to the Assyrians. Ancient Turkey was rich and diverse, leaving behind stories that continue to fascinate us today. What do we know about Turkey's prehistory? Historians believe that people have been in Turkey since the Paleolithic period, living as hunter-gatherers and using stone tools. One of the Paleolithic sites is the Yarımburgaz Cave, which archaeologists believe early people used for shelter during the winter months. Other settlements date back to about 8000 BCE. The people eventually developed farming and moved into the Mesolithic period. They grew wheat and barley, and they began building houses with mud bricks. Some historians even believe that they painted their walls. Archaeologists have more information about the Neolithic period in Turkey. Some sites had stone houses, while others still used mud brick. Some places appear to have had drainage systems and channels to cool their homes, and some houses doubled as tombs or memorials because people were buried underneath. The settlements were large for the time, functioning as ancient towns. Some towns even had evidence that they traded along the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. People decorated their homes with paint and used architectural decorations like pillars, sculptures, and carved reliefs throughout the town. The pillars appear to have had religious significance, and historians believe many of the carvings and clay figurines are connected to the ancient religion. By the Chalcolithic age, the ancient Anatolian people had built their first temple and were beginning to utilize metal like copper. Their homes became more complex as they added an upper floor that may have been made of wood. They added workshops, stoves, and storage areas, all of which suggests a more complex society. The people continued painting the walls, but they were now adding plaster to the walls first and also decorating with figurines. They decorated their walls and pottery with red figures on a cream background, but historians are still unsure of its significance. The people also began fortifying their settlements, which coincided with adding sacred items to temples. Once the Bronze Age arrived, the ancient Turkish people were ready to enter written world history. The discovery of bronze allowed the people to grow and establish important cities like Hattusa, which was home to the Hattian people. It had natural metal deposits, allowing the people to trade with other empires and grow in power. The Hattians began living in central Anatolia around 2300 BCE. Anatolia consists of most of modern-day Turkey. Forests populated the area then, so the people were excellent woodworkers. Most of the people were farmers who grew grains and kept sheep. Even though the woods were full of wild animals, historians have not found much evidence that the Hattian people were hunters. Their religion appeared to stipulate that everything had a spirit, so they did not hunt much to avoid angering the mother goddess they relied upon for their crops. The Hattian people traded as far as Babylonia and Egypt, supplying wood, ceramics, and woolen blankets and clothes. They used a cuneiform script for trade and amassed wealth. Their capital, Hattusa, was the center of the Hattian language and arts, and it withstood several Akkadian attacks. However, it could not stand against the Hittites, who conquered the city around 1700 BCE and took it for themselves. Hattian culture soon merged with the Hittite culture, allowing these ancient people to leave their mark on the world. Why were the Hittites important to world history? The Hittites proved to be a formidable empire that fought with Mesopotamian civilizations and became one of the most powerful empires of their time. Although the Hittites were great warriors, they were also involved in the first peace treaty and were concerned with justice and fairness. Historians believe that the Hittites first arrived in Anatolia during the Bronze Age and came into contact with the Hattian people. Although King Anata captured the city of Hattusa, King Hattusili I rebuilt the city and founded the Hittite kingdom. Hattusili was interested in conquest and expanding his empire. Unfortunately, after Hattusili died, his grandson Mursili took the throne and was later assassinated. This event started an unfortunate Hittite habit of assassinating kings for the next few decades. The violence led to some instability, which eventually ended the Old Kingdom. In the Middle Kingdom, the Hittites turned to international diplomacy, making it one of the first nations to do so in world history. They possibly turned to diplomacy because they could not conquer other territories, but their diplomacy helped them survive during the Middle Kingdom, giving them time to recover before becoming one of the most powerful kingdoms in the region. The Hittites began their rise to power in 1344 BCE, when King Suppiluliuma I came to the throne. He was interested in expanding Hittite control again, but he first ensured the existing territory was fortified. King Suppiluliuma I conquered much of the Middle East during his reign, making him a threat to both Syria and Egypt. Akhenaten and Tutankhamun of Egypt fought against the Hittite incursions, but they could not stop Suppiluliuma. King Suppiluliuma I died of the plague in 1322, leaving his son Mursili II as the next king. He quickly proved himself a great warrior by protecting the Hittite borders and fighting the Kaskians. He was the father of Muwatalli II, who is most famous for his work at the Battle of Kadesh. Ramses II, also called Ramses the Great, fought the Hittite army of Kadesh in 1274 BCE. Both sides claimed to have won the battle. The Hittites kept Kadesh, but the Egyptians defeated much of the Hittite army. Both sides soon realized they were relatively equal, so they signed the first peace treaty around 1258 BCE. It was called the Treaty of Kadesh. Although earlier treaties exist in world history, those mainly focus on deities or boundaries. This treaty established peace and allowed the two empires to collaborate. The Hittites taught the Egyptians metalwork techniques, and the Egyptians taught the Hittites better farming methods, making for a mutually beneficial relationship. Even though the Hittites were powerful in ancient Turkey, they didn't last forever. The Hittites fought with the Assyrians around 1245 BCE in the Battle of Nearia. The Assyrians were already strong, and they defeated the Hittites. The Assyrians continued to attack with aid from allies like the Kaskas until 1190 BCE, when Hattusa finally fell, and the Assyrians conquered almost all of the Hittite territories. They did their best to erase all memory of the Hittites, but archaeologists have pieced together some of their culture and society. The Hittites were formidable during their reign and used their power and wealth to make the Anatolian region influential. Their actions would impact Turkish history for centuries to come. What happened in ancient Turkey after the fall of the Hittites? After the Hittites fell, several other empires rose in Anatolia. They continued to interact with the world, and a few are famous for their interactions with Greek city-states. One of these empires was the Lydian Empire. They existed in western Anatolia from about 1200 BCE to 546 CE, although they lost their independence to Cyrus the Great. They were heavily involved in trade and had good farmland and natural resources like silver and gold. All of this combined to make the Lydian Empire wealthy. They came to the height of their powers under the Mermnid dynasty. The Mermnid dynasty began with King Gyges, who supposedly assassinated King Candolus for the throne in 680 BCE. Up until this time, Lydia mainly had kept within its borders. Gyges began to expand the Lydian borders rapidly, taking over most of Asia Minor before other growing empires finally conquered them. The most famous Lydian king was Croesus. He became king around 560 BCE and is renowned for conquering the Greek cities on the coast. His borders stretched to Persia, but despite his interest in conquering, Croesus had a good relationship with the Greeks. Around this time, Lydia was also one of the first empires, if not the first, to mint coins. This spread the myth that Lydia was extremely wealthy. Although we know about Lydia's wealth and trading empire, we don't know much about Lydian culture. They appeared to have shared much of their culture with the Greeks, with whom they maintained close economic relationships. They had their own language and writing system, but there is a lack of records written by them, leading some historians to believe that they did not often write. Although they may not have been literary giants, the Lydian Empire was still a strong political, cultural, and economic force. They finally fell to the Persian Empire around 547 BCE, but they still left a mark on world history that continues to shape Turkey today. Another Anatolian empire that impacted ancient Turkey was the Phrygian Kingdom. It ruled from around 1200 BCE to around 700 BCE in the land that used to belong to the Hittites. However, these were not the same people. Historians believe the Phrygians arrived from the Balkans after the Assyrians defeated the Hittites. Their culture was influenced by the Hittite culture, but the Phrygian kingdom never reached the same political power that the Hittites had enjoyed. However, the land was fertile, and the Phrygians soon had a wealthy kingdom filled with trade and craftspeople. Music was a critical part of their culture, and they introduced several musical techniques to the Greeks. The Greeks heavily influenced them, and they appeared in Greek mythology as part of musical myths and the Trojan War. The Trojan War started over Helen, King Menelaus' wife. Paris of Troy stole Helen from Menelaus, so Greece declared war on Troy, which was located in modern-day northern Turkey. The Phrygians were Troy's allies, so they fought to defend the city. The war went on for about a decade before the Greeks won. According to legend, they hid inside a giant wooden horse and crawled out of its belly at night to slay the Trojans. Another famous Phrygian in Greek mythology was King Midas. Historians believe he really was a king of Phrygia. His name was Mida of Mushki, and he ruled from around 738 BCE to 696 BCE. Although he could not turn anything he touched into gold, unless the legends are true, King Mida was likely wealthy and powerful enough to join other kings in a successful fight against the Assyrian Empire. Sadly, the Phrygian kingdom did not last long. They were defeated by the Cimmerian people, a nomadic group who entered Anatolia sometime in the 8th century. They destroyed the Phrygian capital of Gordium around 675 BCE, destabilizing the kingdom and accidentally opening up a way for the Lydian Empire to expand. The Lydians then took over the area around 620 BCE, absorbing the remains of the Phrygian kingdom into their empire. Although the Phrygians did not rule for long, they still impacted the civilizations around them, influencing trade and the stories we tell ourselves today. A third Anatolian kingdom was the kingdom of URARTU. They only lasted 2 centuries, but they were still powerful enough to threaten the Assyrians and control large amounts of territory in Anatolia. The two kingdoms were locked in combat for most of URARTU's existence over control of the land, but the kingdom managed to thrive anyway. In fact, the Assyrians invaded so often that they influenced the development of Urartian culture, including their writing systems, warfare, and artwork. War was a crucial part of their culture, and they prized brave, skilled warriors. Their kings were also expected to be militant, which would have shaped a culture that appears to have constantly been at war. The kingdom funneled workers and supplies into the army, and the Urartian people were known for their horseback riding, suggesting they used a strong cavalry. They spent most of their early years fighting the Assyrians, but once they waned, the Urartian kingdom began conquering their neighbors, which earned them some enemies. However, the Assyrians were not gone forever, and when Sargon II took the Assyrian throne in 722 BCE, he decided to destroy the kingdom of Urartu. He invaded in 714 BCE and led a desperate charge that quickly became an Assyrian victory. The near-constant attacks by the Assyrians and from Urartu's other enemies eventually weakened the kingdom. It fell to Cyrus the Great in 585 BCE, although some believe it might have ended earlier with the capture of its capital. Although the Urartian people did not rule for long, they still built an impressive civilization that confounded the Assyrians for decades. They are a classic example of the tremendous Anatolian empires, filled with a ferocity matched by their love of the land and impressive art. The kingdom of Urartu influenced the cultures around them and reminds us all that ancient Turkey has a diverse and rich history that continues to change the world today. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about ancient Turkey, check out our book, Ancient Turkey, a captivating guide to the Göbekli Tepe and the ancient civilizations of Anatolia and Eastern Thrace. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.